Shalom everybody, welcome back. Shavua Tov, good Voch, a good summer, a new beginning. That's it. Now we're starting the half of the year, which is it's called Tshuva out of love. Pesach is a time of Ahava, love, The Jews went after Moshe Rabbeinu into the desert. Lechtech acharai bamidbar be'eretz lo zerua. The Jews went, no questions. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu says, we don't have enough food, that's not a problem. We just go. It's tshuva out of love, yearning, positivity. Whereas Rosh Hashanah is judgment. Oh my God, we're being judged. The new year, who's going to live, who's going to die. So now it's like we want to come back to Hashem to receive the Torah, but out of love, B'ezrat Hashem. And don't forget, all this period started from Purim. Purim is our prerequisite for Shavuot. In other words, everything is starting from the light of Purim, which was also tshuva out of love, out of yearning and positivity, B'ezrat Hashem. So it's a special time of yearning, God willing. So before we start, we have a dedication to the class. This class has been sponsored and dedicated by Avraham ben Rachel, V'chol Mishpachto, and the zchut of Rabbi Nachman ben Fege and Rav Nosson ben Chaya Lane. May have success, beruchniut, begashmiut, him and his whole family, B'ezrat Hashem, the netzach netzachim, and he should see a lot of bracha and atzlacha in this world and in the next, B'ezrat Hashem. All right, we're continuing with these amazing letters from Rav Nosson, and they're just amazing because they're opening up so many details. And again, every word from Rav Nosson is weighed and measured. In fact, with Ruach HaKodesh, because Rabbi Nachman blessed him that he'll open up his mind to his teaching. So Rav Nosson has a lot of the impression of Rabbi Nachman. In fact, before Rav Nosson passed away, on a Wednesday, he passed away on a Friday afternoon, the 10th of Tevet, an hour before Shabbat, before candlelighting. Wednesday night, he was already sick for the entire week from the previous Saturday night of Motzei Shabbat of Parshat Miketz, and he passed away on Friday of Parshat Vayigash. So he started feeling very weak, and people were coming often to be by him to daven at his house because he was sick. So there was a Wednesday night that there was a man named Reb Zev, or in Yiddish Reb Velvel, and he came, I think, from Tulchin, I'm not sure exactly which city, and someone was standing in front of him, blocking Rav Nosson from seeing Reb Velvel, Reb Zev. So Rav Nosson said, "Who's blocking Reb Zev? Move away so Reb Zev can look at me." Rabbi Nachman once told me, just looking at him can do a person a lot of tova, a lot of goodness. And I say the same thing, looking at me also can bring goodness. When you hear that, wow, you have to have big shoulders to say that. But it shows how much Rav Nosson was so merged with Rabbi Nachman, so merged together. He was able to say that to this Reb Zev, look at me, it'll do good for you, just looking at him, okay? To show what type of person we're talking about here. This is someone absolutely special. And the proof to that is people can find what they're going through in life in his words, whether it's his letters, his discourses in Likutey Halachot, his prayers on Likutey Moharan. He's the extension, the disciple, like Yoshua to Moshe Rabbeinu, who shines the light of the tzaddikim, the sun, but in a format that people can use it in their life. Even though people are as they are, so far from Hashem, so low, so blemished, corrupted, whatever you want to say, and yet the tzaddikim, through these type of disciples, shine a message of hope for anybody who just wants. It's enough that you want. Okay, you're far, you're this, you have all these problems, everything. But the fact that you want is the handle to connect and to get out, B'ezrat Hashem, and to have hope. That's what these tzaddikim try to show us. So we're holding in this a letter for a while already, letter 443, and it is a long letter. We're just in the opening paragraph, believe it or not. And just to recap, Rav Nosson is writing to his disciple, Rabbi Ephraim ben Rav Naftali, about the greatness of supporting his cause, which is printing and publishing Breslov teachings. In this case, it was Rav Nosson's first book of his own, Likutey Halachot, Volume 1, that was printed in his lifetime. and he's thanking profusely and emphasizing profusely to Rabbi Ephraim the greatness of supporting such teachings and why he's sticking his neck out to do it. Before this, there's an amazing story I have to give over that I just heard recently, and this story shows how big it is to support Breslov causes. We're talking about the year 1942 here in the old city of Yerushalayim. 1942 was in the middle of World War II. World War II affected the whole world, and all the more so the Jews living in Israel, the Holy Land, that the poverty just went even worse. It became even more difficult because of war. There's no proper flow and functioning of buying and selling and then produce and import and export. Everything's upside down. Everything's a mess. So obviously the Jews in Israel, who were like the last stop of everything in the world, they were sure affected, and especially the Jews who lived in the old city of Yerushalayim, who had a very difficult life. They were living on barest minimum, on a few onions and potatoes. There was hardly any dairy, or they had to get like cheese from outside that was kept in a way that they can eat it. They had even something like we don't see it today anymore. Dried eggs. Have you ever seen dried powdered eggs? Powdered eggs. Who sees powdered eggs anymore? Okay, but they were living with great difficulty, but they were happy because they believed that they were in the closest proximity to serving Hashem, to the Beit HaMikdash, the place of the temple. So for these Jews, they wouldn't change this for anything. With all the difficulties they went through, they agreed to live such a difficult life, and their wives agreed. That was the biggest chiddush. The men fine, but the wives, to raise a family in such an environment, absolutely amazing. So you can imagine wherever there are Jews and they're already struggling, at the bottom of the list are always the Breslovers. The Breslovers were like last resort, the people that everybody picked on. Rabbi Nachman said that there will be machloket against the Breslovers. I guess until Mashiach comes, Breslov will always be in a way looked down upon. There'll be people who appreciate it, and it's happening more and more, yes. But unfortunately, the majority of the Jewish people, of the religious Jewish people, who should know better, still have their doubts and reservations when it comes to Breslov and joining in. Even though more and more people are joining, and the people joining Breslov are the cream of the crop, are the best of the best of other Hasidic groups and other yeshivas in the Litvish world. They end up coming to Breslov, and also people who are so far showing they have such potential also end up coming to Rabbi Nachman's teachings. Okay, so it was very difficult then. Rabbi Chaim Rosen, who's always someone who's always trying to do, not just to learn and daven for himself, he was always looking to help the other Breslover Hasidim to survive. He opened the kollel, he opened the yeshiva kollel called Or Ne'elam, which translates as the hidden light, a reference to Rabbi Nachman, whose light is still hidden till today, so he gave it a good name called the hidden light. And they were living on abject poverty, minimum. He had over 37 families, guys learning in the kollel, and he felt an obligation to support them. So Rabbi Chaim Rosen, having a sister who lived in New York, so he's able, with the connections of the American Jewry, to try to bring in funds. Along with that, the other Breslover Hasidim who felt they had some types of connections, they would also try to get involved, including Rav Shmuel Horvitz. His father, believe it or not, Rabbi Yeshaya Horvitz, was a rabbi in a community, in a synagogue in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. His father went from Tzfat to becoming a rabbi of the community in Winnipeg. So Shmuel Horvitz, using that connection of his father, tried to gain funds from the Canadian Jews in Winnipeg, Manitoba, to support also the Breslover kollel. And again, Rabbi Chaim Rosen and anybody else who could. Among the people who tried to help as much as possible, because again, you had the people in Breslov who were totally detached and were just involved in davening and learning. They didn't know how to deal with it. It's not because they chose to be like that. That's how they were. These are the people who are not able to run things. They're able to daven and learn. But you have other people who have a concern and have skills and an ability to help other people. In other words, you shouldn't look bad. Oh, look at them. They're always doing chesed. Look at me. I don't know how to do chesed. You shouldn't say that. Each person has different specialties according to the neshama, who they are. You have a neighbor who loves baking cakes for other people and doing this and that. Don't be jealous. Don't say, oh, I wish I was like that. I'm not like that. Don't do that. You have other things. If you're not doing that, you have other things that you're doing, Baruch Hashem. And you are helping other people in different ways, okay? Other people, they're built like that they physically know how to do stuff for other people. So amongst them was another Breslover named Rav Moshe Borstein. Rav Moshe Borstein and his wife were very into helping other people. His whole life was looking to give tzedakah to other people, to help other people. He never wanted to receive money. He was always working. He in fact, when they started the country in 1948 and everything, so his job, he was making roads. He was paving roads all the way like in Kiryat Gat, places far to make a living. And he was someone trying to do and also help. So Rav Moshe Borstein and his wife, who lived in the old city of Yerushalayim, they took care of an old man who was alone, who was never married, or maybe he was, but he at the time old man called Reb Lazer, and nobody took care of him. So they took him in. He lived in their home literally, and they fed him and took care of him and everything. And one day in the year like 1942, Reb Lazer began to say, because he's getting older, he said, "What am I going to do about my Yerusha, my inheritance?" And they were shocked. They never knew that he had inheritance because he's living in their home. He's an old man. No one takes care of him. And they're feeding him and helping him whatever they can. And he's not a Breslover. Rav Moshe Borstein was very special that he had no discriminations. He would help anybody. He was very special in that. Whether Breslover or non-Breslover, because when you get into Breslov, you have a feeling I have to stick out my neck to help these people, because if it's not me, then who's going to help them? But Rav Moshe Borstein was very open to helping. His whole thing was chesed, a lot of chesed and kindness and helping other people, visiting sick people, etc. He was very, very special in that. So, but when they heard from Rav Lazer, he has a Yerusha, what in the world? You're staying by us and everything? And he says, yes, he has a nice sized apartment in the old city, and his years are limited, he's getting older. Where's it going to go? Who's going to give it to? So immediately, Rav Moshe Borstein and his wife suggested, you want a big mitzvah? Maybe use it, turn it, instead of selling it and money distributing whatever, give it to the Breslover Hasidim to use as their kollel. Because until now they're paying rent, it's a big chunk of every month's money that they raise to support the poor Breslovers in the kollel, and they also have to pay for the rent of wherever they're renting because they don't have their own place. Let them use this place. Give over the inheritance to the Breslover yeshiva or an Alim, and let them use it. And he was thinking about it, and they said these are the top Talmidei Chachamim. In this kollel were the biggest giants of Torah in the generation, including Rav Avram Sternhartz. Avram Sternhartz there's no way to explain this guy, this person. Avram Sternhartz, a descendant of Nosson, a great-grandson of Nosson, he was totally, and we mean totally fluent in the entire Talmud, even off by heart, all the commentaries, Tosfot, Rosh, Rif, Ran, Rishonim, Acharonim, the entire Shulchan Aruch, all 4 sections off by heart with the major commentaries, all the writings of the Arizal, the Midrash, Likutey Moharan, off by heart, word for word. He had their times in Ukraine, they had no electricity, so you had to read by heart the book. You couldn't see the book already Shabbos afternoon, so it was by heart, word for word, Likutey Moharan, word for word, Likutey Halachot. These are people who were giants of the Torah, but they looked at themselves like dirt, like nothing. He was already in his 80s in this time. He passed away in about 1955 at the age 93. So he's about 80 something, and he's learning in a kollel. His whole life was learning Torah, Rav Sternhartz. And he was supposed to be elected as the chief rabbinical judge of Yerushalayim. But when the community saw that the Breslovers are not so in accord with him and his opinions, so they said, forget it. If he's not accepted by everybody, then we can't choose him as being the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. But just to show you what level, what caliber of people we're talking about, and they were like dust. They looked at themselves like a shmata. They would go around wearing, because of poverty, a hat which wasn't so clean, wasn't perfect, was dented. But these people were like the biggest giants of the Torah in the world, possibly at the time. Another one, Rav Ephraimel of Pshedzborz, who was a recognized tzaddik in Poland. They treated him like a rebbe, but he ran away from it. He was zochet to go to the Holy Land. He passed away relatively young, I think in his 50s, 60s, like right at 2 years after this, 1945, he passed away. Okay? 45, 46. These people were total experts in every Gemara, every Rashi, every Tosfot, Gemara. But they lived with such humility that they ran away. And anyways, because they were Breslovers, so nobody's looking at them. Okay, you had giants of Torah, Rav Shlomo Wexler, Rav Elchanan Spector. These people could have been the chief rabbis if they wanted to, of any big community if they wanted to. But they shunned it in order to serve Hashem with simplicity, because they felt the damage caused of honor is much greater than the benefit of helping the Jewish people with Torah and everything. They felt the danger of honor is more dangerous and it's more damaging than the benefit of being a chief rabbi. Let someone else be a chief rabbi. The other people who can do it, let them. Gesundheit. We came to Breslov for a reason, to work on ourselves at the maximum level, so they ran away. But they were fit to be the top people. So Rav Moshe Burstein was explaining to Rav Lezer, you have here the top Talmidei Chachamim, possibly in the entire world. Okay? And it'll be a big zchut for you to have a place, and it'll be for your memory. So he wasn't sure, because Breslovers, he's not a Breslover, but he saw how good-hearted Moshe Burstein and his wife were to him. So he thought about it. So the next day, when he ate by them, he said, okay, I'm going to do this. And he quickly went to this lawyer, he traveled to the new city of Yerushalayim, out of the old city, went to a lawyer that after his 120 years, his house and all of what he has left goes to the Breslover Hasidim of the Yeshiva of Ornella. So word got out by the Jewish community in the old city, by the non-Breslovers. They said, what are you doing? You're not even a Breslover. We're giving to these people who are like nothing. What merit do they have that you should gain a merit by giving to them? What are you doing? Give to more organized Hasidic communities in the old city, more structured, more organized. You have a bigger merit. And they convinced him. So, like a few days after the incident with the lawyer and word got out, Rav Lezer came back to Moshe Borstein and he says, I regret my giving over my house to the Breslover Hasidim. I regret. And I want to give it elsewhere. So what can they do? They say the man, the ratzon of a man that's his honor. The honor of a man, the will of a man, that's what he wants. That's what he wants. That's it's his right. No one can force him. They brought it as a good suggestion. He accepted it. Of course, they're trying to do something good. But what can they do? So he left that day to go to the old city, to the new part of Yerushalayim, to the lawyer to change what he signed. And on the way, he conked out and died. He passed away, leaving the whole building, the whole house that he had to the Breslover Hasidim. And when people saw that, the Breslover Hasidim, when they saw that, they said that Min Hashamayim, from heaven, they're giving him this merit. He was stubborn, he listened to other people, but from heaven they want to give him this merit. So on the way to the lawyer the second time, he passed away like that. But to show you, it's not a simple thing to support Breslover causes, which is why Rav Nosson in this letter is going at length, because he was really starting something which never happened before. He was, putting out a book. He was all alone. He knew Rabbi Nachman hinted to him, told him what to do, what direction to take, but he's all alone in this. It's not like there's tons of Breslover Hasidim and we do this and we know what to do and we're supportive. Like today, there's tons of Breslov books being published in Baruch Hashem, many languages, all types of formats and editions all over the world, online, okay, in bookstores, main bookstores all over the world. It's big now, okay, but back then, when you're starting something, so it's a lot of effort and you need a lot of strength to believe in yourself that you're doing the right thing. So Nosson is writing about this, and we're going to reiterate the few words, just a few lines before we want to get to today, and to see how Rav Nosson has to be strong like iron in what he's doing and to believe in it, okay? So he tells Rabbi Ephraim ben Naftali like this: Hashem Yitbarach Yodea Kavanati Letova. Hashem blessed me, He knows my intention for the good. He's not looking for honor. You think you have some people, unfortunately, that it's like an honor to put out a book. I was once at a wedding and also bar mitzvahs where the one doing the simcha, the father of the bar mitzvah boy or the father of the chatan or kala, they feel it like an accomplishment and an obligation to put out a new book. They put out a book and they give out the book at the wedding or the bar mitzvah. I see this a few times. On one hand, bravo, kol hakavod. But on the hand, like, oh, look at me. I put this out. Psh, and they inscribe on the book, given out at the simcha of our child, our son or our daughter getting married, mazel tov, and it's like an honor there. Wow, I put out a book for the wedding. That's what people think. Okay, Rav Nosson, with abject poverty, put out a book, and not for his personal intent at all, just to spread the light of Rabbi Nachman in a format that people can access. That's what Likutey Halachot is. This book Likutey Halachot is on how to be a Jew. Use Rabbi Nachman's teachings on a practical level, how to be a Jew. You're going to need it because the tests of this exile are so severe. When you see what Rabbi Nachman reveals and what Rav Nosson offers to explain on a practical level, you begin to wonder, how are people functioning without this? You begin to see, you don't have this, you don't have Hitbodedut in your life, you don't have dancing every day, you don't have finding a good point. So how are you functioning? You have your Torah, your Shomer Shabbos, you have everything, but you don't have basic things to keep you normal. Look what you're going through. Look what I'm going through. Look, we're all going through. People have all types of family issues, health issues, financial issues, crazy idea issues, AI, AI issues, whatever you want to call it, right? And you begin to wonder, how are people managing? They don't have what I have from Rabbi Nachman's teachings. How are they functioning? How? I have no idea. When you speak to them, they have a Rebbe, they have an Admor, and no one mentions basic ideas that Rabbi Nachman is mentioning that are lifesavers. They mention this and that and like an indirect, but it's like not changing them. And you begin to wonder, how are they functioning without these teachings? That's how Rav Nosson viewed Rabbi Nachman. That's what the Likutey Halachot is and how to be a Jew. He takes Rabbi Nachman's ideas and then shows you how it's in halacha, in tzitzit, in tefillin, in Shabbat, in brachot, in Yom Kippur, in kasher and kelim, in the laws of theft and robbery, every area of the Shulchan Aruch, he shows you how this idea relates to here, so you can get a practical level how to use it in your life. B'ezrat Hashem. That's what Rav Nosson was after. So he's saying, Hashem blessed be He, knows my intention is for the good. Now he says this because unfortunately in his time there was opposition against Rav Nosson, and they would put all types of slanders against him, all types of slanders, so like no one would believe him from the outside. So Rav Nosson has to say, Hashem knows that my intent. No one believes me. Okay, so Hashem Yitbarach, He's the one who knows, as if to say, like He's the only one who really knows what's in my heart, that my intention is for the good. Ubevadai, but look at his solidness now. Ubevadai, eni shogeh chas v'shalom bazeh klal, ma shani kosef lechol zeh v'chuleh. And definitely, like with a surety, bevadai, I am not making an error, God forbid, in this at all, in what he's doing in putting out his book, and in taking the direction he did in spreading Breslov Chassidut without becoming a Rebbe. That was the biggest argument against the Breslov Chassidim. Rav Nosson become a Rebbe. Rabbi Nachman passed on. You're carrying the torch, so put on a shtreimel like the Rebbes. Become a big shot. Become a Rebbe, become a leader. Rav Nosson refused. I'm just a student. I'm not in the picture. I'm just the Talmid. That's how he saw himself. And the other groups couldn't handle it, saying every Hasidic group has a Rebbe. He passes on, or his children, or someone super close. If there's no children, they become the next Rebbe. So do that. And he refused, and they couldn't handle it. What is this? A dead Rebbe, and you have a group now built on that? It was so sticking out. It was very hard for people to swallow that. That's one of the big things of the opposition was that, at that point. There's no living Rebbe, so what do you want? Everyone needs a Rebbe. You need a Rebbe, a live person to talk to. Today people need to see on YouTube or whatever, and they need to see some rabbi talking. They need that. They need that thing to feel, there's someone in between. Rav Nosson refused to be that like a person who, like people say, this rabbi says, he didn't want to be like that. He said what Rabbi Nachman says. I'm just giving over what Rabbi Nachman says. Rav Nosson says what Rabbi Nachman said. He's explaining it. That's it. That's the whole picture that Rav Nosson had of himself, okay? And so, again, he's strong in what he's doing, though, in spreading Rabbi Nachman's light. Ubevadai eni shogeh, and definitely I'm not making an error, God forbid, in this at all. Mashani kosef lechol, that which I yearn for all of this, etc. What is all of this? The printing of the books, the establishment of the gathering in Uman for Rosh Hashanah, by building the clois, okay, by spreading Rabbi Nachman's light, even though he's not physically here, to new students, new disciples. All this, Rabbi Nachman says, I'm not making an error in any of this. But now he says something which is scary. However, we'll go into this verse. Kashal koach hasaba. However, he's quoting a verse. This verse is from Nehemiah. We're going to check out this verse because it's very powerful, the meaning behind this verse and how we can interpret it from a Breslov perspective. However, kashal has become broken. Koach, the strength to endure of carrying, the weight, sabal, of carrying the weight. However, the strength of carrying the weight has been broken. And he adds another point. Vimei zikna veseva memashmeshim uvaim. And the days of being old and elderliness are coming quickly. Rav Nosson is 64 years old at this point. 64 years old. And he's saying the days of being a zaken are coming. Normally, zaken, there are opinions that at age 60, it's already considered a zaken. There's the laws of standing up for an elder person. Some say 70, some say 60. So Rav Nosson's 64, and he's saying the days of zikna, in other words, zikna veseva also means physical weakness, okay? Because he says there's no more strength to endure, and the days of being old, that means Rav Nosson at 64 doesn't see himself as being old. He sees himself as being young. If he's saying at 64, I'm beginning to feel weak, and this is a year before he passes away. This letter is approximately a year, a bit under, less than a year before he passes away in the next year, in 1844. This is 1843 December, and 1844 December he passed away, okay? So almost a year, and he had sickness, he had colitis, he had stomach disease, but he was so strong. Oh, this wasn't recording at all. He was so strong in his attitude. Let's take a look at this verse, because this verse will explain something we want to get into. This verse is from Nehemiah, the book Nehemiah, chapter 4, verse 4. The verse talks about the period when the Jews living in the Holy Land, this is like before the building of the second temple, in between the 70 years, toward the end of the 70 years, in the middle of the 70 years before the first destruction of the temple and the second temple. So the Jews were given permission by the Persian Empire to rebuild the temple. As you know, Koresh gave permission, but it was stopped totally by Haman's 10 sons. They were advisors, and Achashverosh also agreed to it. There's details, I don't have all the details, I'm sorry, of all the historical points. There's many details in that story, but basically Haman's sons stopped the rebuilding. But until that happened, the Persian Empire gave permission for the Jews to rebuild the temple. However, there were wicked people living in Israel at the time who were not Jewish, and some were Jewish, but they were anti-religious. Can you believe that? They were trying to stop the Jews from the tribe of Judah to start rebuilding the temple. Okay? So Nehemiah, who was a prophet at the time, he was the one hearing the argument that the pain the suffering of the Jews from the tribe of Judah living in Yerushalayim at the time. So he says like this, Vayomer Yehuda, Nehemiah says, and Judah, the tribe of Judah, came to me telling me the following, Kashal koach hasabal. This is what Rav Nosson's quoting here. It has become broken, weakened, broken basically, the strength to sabal. Sabal means to carry. What were they carrying? So Rashi in the commentaries, they say, these were Jews who were carrying earth and stones and wood to make the wall for the temple. It wasn't even the actual building of the wall. It was the preparatory ingredients, the material used to eventually build the wall. It wasn't building the wall yet. It was just schlepping all these things of earth, stones, wood to bring towards the Temple Mount. And with that, they would start the building. Even that point of bringing the raw material, they couldn't do because of the enemies of the Jews, and the Persian government wasn't doing anything about it. They were submitting their complaints. The Persian government said, well, that's your problem. I gave you permission, you have permission. Koresh, he said, you have permission. Cyrus, I think his name is Cyrus, right? He said, you have permission, to build the second temple, but now the opposition of the people, that's your problem. So the Midrash says on this concept, right? First of all, the verse continues, 1 second. They said, we have no more strength. V'ha'afar harbeh. There's a lot of earth, afar, to bring for the wall, for the construction of the wall. V'anachnu lo nuchal livnot b'choma. And we can't even begin to build, to start even the building of the wall even. Okay? So now the Midrash says on this verse, and probably it relates a lot to what Iran, which is Persia, is doing today. So it says in the Midrash, this is Midrash Eicha, chapter 1, paragraph 43. It says like this, Rabbi Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Yirmiyah, says the following. There are 4 things that weaken the strength of man. And these are the following. Number 1, fasting. Number 2, traveling. Number 3, sins. And number 4, the Malchut, the empire, the kingdoms of the nations. Okay? So on Malchut, he brings a proof. Where's the proof to that Malchut does that? Dichtiv, like the verse reads. This verse from Nehemiah, chapter 4, verse 4. Vayomer Yehuda, and Judah said, Kashal koach hasabal, right? There's no more strength. The strength has been broken of carrying. Va'afar harbeh, and there's too much dirt to carry. We can't even begin to work with the wall. So he says the commentaries on this midrash. I'm going to read he collects from the commentaries to explain what's going on here. Kashal koach hasabal hayehudim mitzorerehem shefriu lahem livnot hachoma. The strength to endure carrying of the Jews was broken because of their enemies who kept on obstructing them from building the wall. Tachat shibud malchut paras, while under the rulership of the Persian Empire. Shelo atzra. What was look at this, unbelievable. It's one thing for a government to say, okay, you can do what you want, but when the government stands by on the side and doesn't help out when you're being attacked, it's as if they're committing the crime. You hear that? Shelo, it's a message for what's happening today, if it's in Canada or in England, wherever, in France, where they can't stop now other people, well, they have freedom of speech, we can't help you. You know, the Canadian government is saying to Jewish communities, we can't help you now. Yeah, you guys have to figure out what to do. You know, because we can't protect you from whatever's happening, the anti-Semitism, right? The Persian Empire did not stop the enemies of the Jews from bothering and interrupting the Jews from doing their work. This was already in the Persian Empire's rulership of the Jews in Israel, the Holy Land. Right? Fine. At the time that the same Persian Empire gave a benefit to the Jews, allowing them a permit to go back to the Holy Land and to build a temple, to rebuild the temple. Okay? If that was the case, so he's saying, Rabbi Tanchum, the son of Rabbi Yirmiyah, that this is the proof that Malchut can weaken the strength. Because they said, Kashal koach hasabal, but wait a second, the Persian Empire gave you permission to build a temple. Yes, but the enemy is attacking us, not letting us do it, and the Persian Empire is sitting by and not acting to help defend us, even though they're ruling over Israel. It's as if they are responsible for that, and that's the example he brings of how Malchut can weaken a nation from a person. It's one of the 4 things that weakens the strength of a person. Okay, so it's amazing what's happening today. That Iran was involved indirectly, and also all the governments in the world were connected, and they stand by and do nothing. So it's rooted in the Midrash. The Gemara says, by the way, 3 things, and in the Midrash it adds this 4th one of Malchut. It's not mentioned in the Gemara in Gittin. Gittin, page 70a, mentions, there's another rabbi in the Gemara mentions 3 items, and he doesn't mention this one. He doesn't mention Malchut. He mentions other items which are 3, but here there's 4, and the 4th one is Malchut. Okay, so now, what happened to Rav Nosson? First of all, there is a Breslov oral teaching from Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman said, what do you guys have to do? What do you have to do? Just bring the bricks and the stones and the earth, bring the raw material, and I'll construct from what you do the most beautiful edifices and buildings. Meaning what? Rabbi Nachman, as a tzaddik, gives advice. Basic advice, like we said, dance every day, do halach every day, do it bodedut, do it tzedakah. He gives many advices of what to do, okay? And on your point, you say, these tiny things, are they going to change me? So Rabbi Nachman said, that's not your business. do the simple advice that I guide you. He said once, Rabbi Nachman, this is written in Rabbi Nachman's wisdom. He said, every advice I give over helps a person in this world. Number 2, in the grave. Number 3, in the world to come. Number 4, after the resurrection of the dead, and in the world, the future world. Every advice I give helps in the long term for everything. It helps already in the present and in the grave. And in the grave, they say, there's an oral tradition in Breslov, that when the worms begin to devour the body, again, it's a question where the worms come from. The normal opinion is the worms come from the body itself, from the decaying of the body, and they continue eating up the rest of the body, right? So there's an oral tradition that any part of your body that has absorbed in it Likutey Moharan, Rabbi Nachman's teachings, the worms don't touch. The worms don't touch. I personally was a witness indirectly to this. There was a Breslover in Toronto who was a simple guy, a Torah scholar, Talmid Chacham, but very low-key. He was a librarian of the Jewish Library in Toronto, Rav Zelig Wolkenstein, of blessed memory. And he was so simple, he would even ride his bike with headphones on to the park in Toronto to do Hitbodedut. You know, that's the type of person he was. He was riding a bike, okay? Very simple, not beneath his dignity to do serving Hashem, okay? And he passed away suddenly, and they buried him in Toronto, but they wanted to bring his body to Eretz Yisrael. They found that he left a will after 4 months. They opened up the grave after 4 months. Now, normally, even in cold, it's not so freezing. 4 months in Toronto goes through various temperatures. The body, a normal body, decays after 4 days. 4 days, the body is decaying already, okay, in the grave. So they opened the grave after 4 months, and the body was totally intact. Totally intact, a little rotting on his ankle, one of his ankles, that's it. They couldn't believe what they saw, the Chevra Kaddish in Toronto. And when they brought the body from Toronto, El Al, to Tel Aviv, and the Breslovers here, the Chevra Kaddish from the Breslovers, connected to the Breslovers, they opened up the body. They couldn't believe what they saw. 4 months in the grave, and the body was intact. They were just amazed. So there's a teaching in Breslov. Rabbi Nachman said any part of the body that has absorbed in it, that a person learned it and davened about it to fulfill it, if it's absorbed in any part of the body, the worms don't touch that part of the body. It's unbelievable. So Rabbi Nachman said, you do the simple devotions. I'm not asking you to build edifices. I'll do that. You do the simple devotions, and I, him being a tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman says in lesson 2, Likutey Moharan, for example, that the tzaddikim, they take our prayers. In other words, the prayers are going up to Hashem, okay? But to give more momentum and force, the prayer that's going up to Hashem, the tzaddikim take it and put it in a building that they're building, that when it's finished, then when this building is finished, Mashiach will come through this building. It requires the prayers of every Jew. Every prayer of a Jew is a brick in this building. But the tzaddikim know where to put it, okay? There's the part of the prayer that goes up, and there's the part of the prayer that once it goes up, it's now used as part of the edifice that the tzaddikim are managing. Okay, this prayer goes on the western wall, on the 11th row, stone number 452. This one on the northern wall, on the eastern wall, southern wall. The tzaddikim know where to put all the prayers to have them in the right place, B'ezrat Hashem, okay? So this is the idea. It's again mentioned in Likutey Moharan lesson 2, that the tzaddikim, they take what you're doing. You're serving Hashem. Everything's to Hashem, no problem. But you want to get mileage plus. You get benefits on what you're doing. You can get benefits on the way. What do you care? Okay? So the tzaddikim reveal specific advice from the Torah. Talking to Hashem is an advice from the Torah. Learning halacha is an advice from the Torah. To dance, it's in Hallel, it's in Psukim and Tehillim. Okay, to talk to Hashem. These are all things which are Torah-based. So, but the tzaddikim open our eyes to reveal these are the pathways that are suggested. There's many things to do in the Torah. One rabbi will say to say chapter 90 over and over and over again. Let's say chapter 90 of Tehillim, let's say. Another one will say to do this, to say this psukim over and again. Rabbi Nachman revealed specific advices, okay? General advices, they said these ones every Jew should do. Simple advices, and he said, do them, and now once they're done, and it's yours, and it's going to Hashem, yes. But now take it, I will build out of it a beautiful edifice, beautiful buildings. All you have to do is simple emunah, pshuta, just do it out of total simplicity, okay? That's what Rabbi Nachman is saying. The rest of our Hasidim, they follow point blank. I don't have to use my brain so much. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu, the Jews leaving Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu said to leave, we're not going to, okay, maybe I should travel like this. Let me get my passport insurance card when leaving Egypt, just in case I have health insurance. The Jews in Egypt, like, just start trying to imagine for today. I have to get my life insurance, and then I get this, and I have to buy, it's going to be cold for the kids. I have to buy and make sure they have stockings and also have this. No, the Jews said, we're leaving. Hashem told, Moshe Rabbeinu said, just make the matzahs and leave. That's it. Nothing. Take what you have and leave. Don't now, let's go shopping, last minute shopping at the marketplace in Cairo, Alexandria, whatever. Let's try to pick up stuff. No. Whatever Moshe Rabbeinu said, he said, pick up matzahs, put your clothes, you put your stuff on the donkeys and the camels, whatever, and then put the matzahs on your shoulder and leave. That's it. The Jews did that. They were happy. They were excited. That's a simple emunah. Why did they do that? We trust Moshe Rabbeinu. And it was proven. The trust was proven. There was the clouds, there was the fire leading them, the clouds leading them during the day, the fire, and then eventually they had the manna. The manna came, and the clouds would clean them. They took no showers, no baths for 40 years. Why? The cloud would come and while they're sleeping, while they're standing, the cloud would come and clean their ears, clean their beard, and the clothing. Everything was laundered, pressed, clean, and no holes. And you're growing, like the Midrash says, Rashi says, like a snail. Just like a snail, its box that it carries over it, the container of the snail grows with it. The clothing of the Jews in Egypt would grow with them. Everything was taken care of. How did they get to that? It had to start with simple emunah in Moshe Rabbeinu. This is amazing. It's a whole, for 600,000 men, plus the women and children, over 1 million people, to take care of all their needs. And it's beautiful. The Midrash says on Shir Shirim, that when nations would see in the desert, the Jews covered totally like a box with clouds of glory. Okay, covered totally. Okay, and also the manna that was left over would melt, and the goyim would taste. The animals in the desert were there. The tzvi, what do you say tzvi? The deers and everything that were wild. They would drink from the manna, and then the goyim would catch these animals and eat them. They would taste in the meat the taste of the manna, and they were flipping out. Say, whoa! So this is like something very beautiful, very presentable. All of this was only because Moshe Rabbeinu told them. The pasuk says, "Vayaminu b'Hashem u'Moshe avdo." The Jews believed in Hashem and Moshe his servant. Okay, so there was simple faith and something that the Midrash in Shir Shirim praises so much. How the Jews walked in the desert so organized, so structured with the clouds. The tribes on the east, the tribes on the west, the tribes on the south, on the north, and the Mishkan in the middle, and everything was so organized. The Torah makes a big deal of the positioning of the flags of each tribe, okay, each part, and they were so organized. And even Bilam, when he saw how they were camping, he was praising, Ma tovu olecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, Israel? And he was praising them, that even when their tents were in the desert, it wasn't like hefker, okay, one tent over here, one tent over here. They were like lined up. The openings of the tents were facing the back of the row in front of them, so they wouldn't have the tents openings facing each other, so no one should peek in and bud the business of the second person. From there we learned halacha, when you build a house, don't have windows facing. You don't have windows and doors facing. You don't have your door facing the door of the neighbor, so you can peek in what's going on in their house. That's the beauty. Bilam was saying the beauty of the Jews, that their tents are not facing each other. Everything was organized and structured. All this because they had simple faith in Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, unbelievable. So Rabbi Nachman said the same thing. Do simple devotions that I'm telling you to do. Put your brain on the side. You know what I want to learn Breslov 101. I only want to say Tikkun HaKlali once I understand it. I only want to start talking to Hashem once I understand it. No. If already you're getting input from Rabbi Nachman's teachings, apply, yalla. He's showing you that he understands what you're going through and he's helping you with his advice. You read amazing things, says, wow, this is exactly what I'm going through today. I needed to hear that. Thank you. Fine. Okay, bravo. What are you going to do now? Is there a follow-up? What's the follow-up? Rabbi Nachman says, do simple devotions that I say to do. Learn halach every day, talk to Hashem every day, dance, be all the advices that we know about, be b'simcha, these, travel to the tzaddikim on Rosh Hashanah, okay? Do these devotions simply, put your head on the side, and I will take what you're doing and make something amazing out of it. Don't think, oh, if I do it, I have to put all my energy, I have to be energized from the beginning and the middle to the end. Rabbi Nachman says, you just do the beginning, I take care of the middle, I take care of the end to build beautiful edifices. Okay? This is in context of this verse. Rav Nosson is saying, there's opposition here. You know, we want to do, the Jews in Judah, the Jews from the tribe of Judah, on this verse from Nehemiah, they say, we want to just bring the basic material, and the opposition doesn't let us. This is what Rabbi Nachman said once. He said, even something that I say to do that's simple, you know, there'll be tons of obstacles to do it. He says, Rav Nosson, he writes in the book Tzaddik, you could have been doing these things before you heard Rabbi Nachman said to do it. And when that was happening, it was easy to do. Once you find out Rabbi Nachman said to do this, and you say, oh, I'm doing this already anyways, but now you're doing it because Rabbi Nachman said to do it, Rav Nosson writes, all of a sudden, things become impossible. I can't lift my finger anymore. I can't even do it. But I was just doing it a year ago, before I discovered Breslov. I was doing the exact same thing. Yeah, but now you're doing it because Rabbi Nachman said to do it. It's now a totally different thing. The Yetzirah says, because now it's regarding Rabbi Nachman and what he has to offer. Now I'm going to give it to you. Now it's going to be hard. Now you're going to see simple things. Simple. What do I want, Hashem? I just want to talk to you. I just want to wake up on time to do to daven on time. I want to follow Shulchan Aruch like a simple Jew. I'm not asking for Huji Buji. I'm not asking to be Superman. I'm not asking to be Moshe Rabbeinu. I just want to be a simple Jew. It just says no. Because you're doing it because Rabbi Nachman said to do it, so there's going to be obstacles on that. So Rav Nosson is saying, I can't anymore handle it. Kashal koach hasaba. Rav Nosson went through obstacles, whether it was from within, but also what he went through from the opposition that there was in his time. That there were people burning the Breslov books, people spitting on the Breslovers. Even Rav Nosson, he's old, he's in his 60s, he had people throwing rocks at him, people spitting at him. Do you know who Rav Nosson is? If you knew who he was, you would kiss his feet. You wouldn't spit on him and throw rocks at him. That's how, till today also, look the Breslovers, we have other Hasidic groups better, the Rebbe looks nice, and the payas are organized, and the beautiful Shtreimel, and everything is organized, and this and that. Breslovers, what do they have, okay? So, we're not denying, Breslov is growing, more and more people are connecting, but Chaval, in the religious world, more and more people could have connected if they were open to the teachings. We'd be more together, okay? So this Rav Nosson is pointing out, Kashal koach hasaba. I can't handle it anymore. It's like, and for what? For bringing the basics, bringing the stones, the trees, the wood, the earth, and not even to build the wall yet. Just the basic material, the building of the wall. That Rabbi Nachman does that. The edifices that he built from what we do the basics things, but I can't do even basics. And he's saying this also regarding his book, Likutey Moharan, because you have to understand, Rabbi Nachman instructed Rav Nosson to write his book Likutey Moharan in his lifetime in the year 1806. Rabbi Nachman, by Ruach HaKodesh, he got Rav Nosson to come to him. Rav Nosson had a sudden urge to come to Rabbi Nachman, and then when he came to Rabbi Nachman said to him, the reason why I brought you to me today, Rav Nosson on his own had like an antenna urge, I have to go see Rabbi Nachman. So Rabbi Nachman says, the reason why I brought you, he didn't even call him, he didn't say send a messenger, he didn't send a letter, he said antenna, and Rav Nosson all of a sudden had a yearning to go to Rabbi Nachman. And then Rabbi Nachman says, the reason why I brought you to me today, because I want you to start a new devotion. I want you to learn the code of Jewish law together with my book Likutey Moharan, and I want you to develop insights in it based on Likutey Moharan, and the Shulchan Aruch based on Likutey Moharan. So Rabbi Nachman initiated Rav Nosson writing his insights in the Likutey Moharan. So he's trying to follow simple guidelines of writing the book and printing it. So he's saying now, Kashal koach hasaba, right? He says here in the letter, I'm not making a mistake at all in what I'm doing. I believe in it totally, but now I have no more strength even to do the basics that I know to do. You know, Kashal koach hasaba. And he said, the days of being old and elder are coming close to me. And he makes it sound that he has no more strength to carry. Until now, he could carry with the opposition. If it's opposition from outside, if it's opposition from the Yetzirah. But now, because I'm older, I have no more strength to carry. My job is to carry. I'm a sabal. Sabal is someone who carries. I'm a schlepper. I'm a schlepper for Rabbi Nachman. I'm a schlepper. I bring him the wood, material, the raw material, and he builds the edifice. No problem. I'm a schlepper for him. But I can't even schlep anymore. That's why Rav Nosson is writing over. We'll stop here because the point was really strong, I think. Bezat Hashem, we'll continue. Thank you everybody for joining the class. And if you want to reach out to say hello, or you have anything to say about the class, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. The number is, it's an American number, +1 732 800 1863. Again, 732 800 1863. Thank you for whoever posted it there. And or by email. Email is very simple also. Breslov-therapy, BRESLOV therapy @gmail.com. Thank you for joining, and may you have an amazing week. And may Rav Noson's light, Rabbi Nachman's light shine in your life and be there for you whenever you need it, no matter what you're going through. Shalom. Thank you everybody for joining.